Hello, I'm Suzanne Kellner-Zinck, a certified trainer of NLP, and I'm going to teach you the applications of neurolinguistic programming, NLP, in health and wellness consulting. What is NLP? NLP is a communication model developed by Bandler and Grinder back in the early 1970s. They studied the great work of therapists of their time. Dr. Milton Erickson was a psychiatrist and a hypnotist. Notice he didn't call himself a hypnotherapist, he called himself a hypnotist. And he taught us some very important things about how our minds work. But first, he taught us different signs of the levels of trance our clients are in as we're working with them. Because trance is not a steady state. People come in and out, so you have to make sure that they stay at a deep enough level of trance so they can still get the work done. Things such as fluttering eyes, noticing circular breathing, as in diaphragmatic breathing. It's the client's getting into a deep, relaxed state. Some people, like myself, swallow a lot more as get relaxed. And some people even lacrimate. That means that they're tearing not because they're sad, but because they're so relaxed that their tear glands are releasing the tears. There's other signs as well, but that's enough to give you an idea. He also brought forth the idea of open loops. That's telling a story 80% of the way through and then going to something different and later coming back and ending the story. The reason this works is because it holds the client's attention. He also is really good about using metaphors. There was a story about him having a patient who was an alcoholic. And he told the patient to go up to the really large sequoia cacti in the area. He lived in Arizona. And ask the cactus why it didn't need to drink. Perfect metaphor to help a person to think more deeply about why they are drinking their alcohol on the subconscious level. He used to chunk the ideas that his clients had to the point where they were so ambiguous that they would let go of their negative emotions, their limiting beliefs, and anything that needed to be gone. Virginia Satir, another one of the therapists that they studied, was a family therapist. And she is the person who taught us about how it is that when we have so much information coming into our five senses that it's impossible for our minds to be able to deal with it all. People who have this problem are considered to have oversensory disorder. So what we do is we delete a lot of this information, which leads to distortion, which is why you and a family member or friend might have gone to the same event and you have totally different recollections because it creates distortions. It's also how we learn things, by the way. You know, chairs can come in different forms, but we know what its use is and we call that a chair. The other thing that our subconscious mind does is it holds our beliefs and values, which is why it's really difficult to shift them unless you're working in someone's subconscious mind. Now, what happens is that we have this thing called an internal representation in our mind, in our subconscious mind. And if that internal representation of the event or many events is negative, it's going to create a negative behavior along with the negative thoughts. So what we do with neurolinguistic programming is we shift the internal representation to something that is positive to help the client move on in a healthy, productive, meaningful way. We're focusing on the relationship between language, behavior, and personal change, as I just explained to you how that's done, with a core idea of changing language and thought patterns to transform behavior and experience. Because neurolinguistic programming really stands for neuro, which is mind, language, and programming. The programming that happens in our family systems and through the cultures in which we live. Key applications for health and wellness consultants would be stress and anxiety management through reframing and anchoring techniques to manage the stress and anxiety of the employees, and even the employers. They're smart. Facilitating behavioral change using switch patterns, where we replace a negative behavior with a positive behavior, or innocuous behavior, which means it doesn't cause a positive or negative response, or anchoring positive emotions to a positive behavior. We're always improving communication, because with enhanced rapport and clarity of communication between consultants and clients, you're going to have improved communication, which probably will bring you better performance. We're going to do a simple demonstration of an anchoring technique so you can get an idea of how this works and how quickly it works. So the first thing I want you to do is take a nice deep breath in, exhale. Now, close your eyes. Go ahead and recall a confident moment, a moment when you felt really strong confidence. And as you're feeling that really strong, confident moment, I want you to squeeze one of your hands really strongly while you're deeply immersed in that emotion. Hold on to it till I tell you to do otherwise. Great. Go ahead and release your hand. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. Now, with your eyes closed, I want you to recall a different challenging situation. And as you're recalling that challenging situation, go ahead and squeeze the same hand you did before. And I want you to notice something really amazing is happening. You're feeling confident. You can go ahead and release your hand and open your eyes. And understand that why it works is because it's building new mental associations. So if you find yourself having to do something that you find kind of scary to do and you need some self-confidence, all you need to do right before you do that thing is squeeze your hand. I'm going to tell you, you need to use it or you're going to lose the anchor. Now, I'm going to explain to you about timeline therapy, negative emotion removal, and I'm going to give you an experience of releasing the negative emotion of anger. So, timeline therapy works through reframing negative emotions and limiting beliefs. It helps clients in the organization by improving the overall mental well-being of employees. It enhances performance, and it supports healthier workplace dynamics. How it works is through a person's timeline. We all have one. It's how we recall our memories. When we're able to recall our memories, we're able to reframe those memories by getting positive learnings, which helps us to let go of the negative charge on the negative emotion and replacing it with a positive learning. It works magnificently well. It's very fast, super effective. So now we're going to go through that process. So go ahead again, take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. Take another nice deep breath in. Hold it. Exhale. Now, the first thing we have to do is elicit your timeline. So, what I'd like you to do with your eyes closed is think of a time in the past, a happy, fun time. Doesn't matter when in your past, it could have been yesterday or when you're a child, doesn't matter. Just let your imagination bring it up. And as you're bringing up that positive event in your past, I want you to take the hand with which you write and take your index finger and point in the direction in which that event is coming. No thinking involved. Just let your finger go to wherever it needs and wants to point to. Great. Now, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to point in the direction in which a happy, fun time is happening in your future. Go ahead and take that same finger and point in the direction from where that happy time is coming. Great. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take those 2 points and connect them. And that's your timeline. Everyone's timeline is different, so whatever it is, it's absolutely perfect for you. Now, I need to help you learn the perceptual points that we're going to use in doing this work. So I'm going to have you float above your timeline with your eyes closed. It's easier to do it with your eyes closed. However you do float. You might see yourself floating. You might feel yourself floating. However you do float is perfect. I want you to float out to that first positive event that you found. Now, I want you to go a little bit above that event, a little before the event. And now I want you to float over now and into your future where that other happy event was found on your timeline. And now you can float into now. Awesome. Now you can open your eyes and I'm going to ask you some questions. And you're just going to need to reflect on them and come up with your answers. First thing I'd like you to ask yourself is, when was the very first time you ever felt anger? Was it before your birth, which could have been generations ago if there's some negative emotion of anger that showed up there? It could be your past lives, if your subconscious mind believes in past lives. Figure out how many number of past lives. Same thing with the generations, how many generations back. Could have happened before your birth, which was while you were gestating in your mom's uterus. Figure out what month you are in. During her birth, during your birth, or after your birth. What age were you when you first experienced the negative emotion of anger? Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go to the event a little before the event, looking at the event, and just get a sense of what that event was. You might just get a feeling about it, you might be able to see it. Just get an idea of what that event is. I'll give you a few moments to do that now. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go above the event, looking directly on the event. And I want you high enough so you don't feel any negative emotions. And I want you to get a positive learning on that event. A positive learning is a learning that you're happy that you received regarding that event. It's helping you feel better about the situation and yourself by getting that learning. Go ahead and get your positive learning. If it was a very traumatic event, you might get several positive learnings on the event. So I'm going to give you some time to do that right now. Okay, great. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go to 15 minutes before that event. And I'd like you to notice that the negative charge on that event has totally disappeared now. You remember the event. There's just no negative charge on it. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go, starting at 15 minutes before that event, and come all the way back to now, getting all your positive learnings on all of the events that have anger as the negative emotion. Only as quickly as you can get all those positive learnings on each of those events. You're going to find that there are some themes, THEMES, that come up as you go through this process. When you're done with the process, I want you to take note of those themes. Go ahead and do the process. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do it. And just make sure that the learnings you're receiving are positive. You feel better for having learned them. Go ahead and do that now. Great. Now, what I want you to do is take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. Notice those themes that came up for you. It'll be very helpful in shifting out of anger. And now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go to a time in the past when you felt some anger. However, I want you to get a new response to that event. A new response that works better for you. I'm going to give you a few moments now to go get that new response. Okay, great. Now, take a deep breath in. Exhale. I want you to think of a situation where anger could come up in the future and get a new response to that event. Go ahead and do that now. Great. You now let go of the negative emotion from your past all the way up to now. How perfect is that? Now I'm going to teach you something. You can use timeline therapy in the moment. If something happens that gets you really angry, sad, fearful, feeling guilty, whatever, it doesn't really matter. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to bring yourself to that event. You're going to figure out what emotion you're working with. And because you already know the event, you're going to go right above the event on your timeline after you list your timeline. You're going to get your positive learning or learnings from that event and find a new response. And you're going to find that if you use this technique, your negative emotions never need to drag you down again. Evidence-based for neurolinguistic programming and self-awareness and self-transcendence. Well, in self-awareness, NLP fosters reflection and thought patterns, supporting self-development and emotional intelligence. You just had an experience of doing that, so you can better understand how that works. It also improves academic achievement and emotional intelligence, and critical thinking, as is found in EFL learners. NLP interventions had significant positive effect on students' outcomes as well. Organization and individual wellness outcomes. Well, the benefits to the organization are greater staff emotional resilience, because they're now able to better deal with their emotions, which is going to help them be more adaptive to health behaviors. And of course, anytime we can let go of things that are bothering us, we understand how we're communicating with ourselves first, we can better communicate with those around us, including our coworkers and bosses. Benefits to the individual. It's used a lot for weight management, smoking cessation, managing chronic stress, but it can be used for so many other things as well. Evaluating the evidence strengths and limitations. The positive would be real-world case studies and small-scale research and client testimonials of enhanced motivation and well-being. I can tell you I've worked with a few thousand clients over the years using neurolinguistic programming, and it's very fast and it's very effective, quicker than normal hypnotic technique. And I use those for other things. The limitation, we need more rigorous long-term trials, and it's not always as evidence-backed as therapies like CBT. They really need to do some evidence-based experimentation using the same facilitator, using the same technique in the same way to get a better understanding of how well it works. NLP in reducing bias and cultivating diversity. Well, bias suppression is done by uncovering and reframing limiting beliefs. It cultivates diversity by mirroring and reframing to enhance empathy and inclusive communication. And leaders can use NLP to create inclusive, high-performing teams. I can tell you that while I was in my master practitioner for linguistic programming, I was paired up with a guy from the Middle East, and we had to figure out what is the best way to deal with terrorists. And I just wanted to lock them up, maybe even kill them for the deaths that they caused, and this guy gave me a whole new attitude of how this can be done in a healthier, more proactive, productive way. Truly, when you learn how to do this stuff, when you go through the techniques, you can learn a whole lot of new ways to reframe and do things in life in a much better, more effective way. Takeaways for health and wellness consultants. We apply neurolinguistic techniques. We can foster personal and organizational well-being. We can develop self-awareness and empathy through mindful language and communication patterns. God knows my thinking has improved a lot in terms of how I go about suggesting things instead of directives, in terms of bossing people into doing things. Suggesting ideas is a lot better way to get things done, along with giving different options. And champion diversity, using NLP to challenge the bias and appreciate individual differences between different people. These are the references that I use for this program. And I do sincerely hope that you gain some very helpful knowledge and maybe more importantly, techniques that you can use going forward in your life to bring better communication first to yourself and to others, and to have a happier, more productive life overall. It's been a pleasure delivering this presentation to you, and I thank you for your time and your attention.